Kathleen,
Yes.
president of the Earth Day Network. I'm so excited to have you here. And Kathleen, please tell us about the network.
So, 1969 was a period of incredible civil unrest in the United States. We had the anti-war movement, anti-Vietnam War. We had the civil rights movement, and we had the legacy of about 150 years of industrial development. And combine those three things together, and sort of an intrepid young man named Dennis Hayes and a senator, Gaylord Nelson, came up with the idea to create teach-ins at university campuses. But the idea took off once they changed the name to Earth Day. And 20 million people came out on the street, which was about 10% of our population at the time, in what is still the largest civic engagement event in human history. No other time has there ever been one place with 20 million people doing one thing. And we had a paranoid president at the time, Richard Nixon, who was quick to react to create the Environmental Protection Act. We had an enormous number of senators, bipartisan, hard to believe, that created a whole system of environmental laws, the Endangered Species Act, Clean Air, Clean Water, Toxic Control Act, and a number of other environmental pieces of legislation. And by the way, embedded in that was the right to sue the government. Citizens had that right. And it's how I made part of my career, suing the federal government and state governments, and actually internationally. But out of that came Earth Day Network, and we grew. We went international in the late 70s and early 80s. And now we're in 190 countries in various degrees, some incredibly intensely, like India and China and the United States, Canada, Brazil. And it is a day, we never use the word celebrate, it's a day of action. So we are grateful to see what's going on in London, although it's not 100% tied to Earth Day. It's sort of that primordial spring when people are really super active. So we're excited to see so many people engaged worldwide now in Earth Day, and we hope to have 1 billion plus people, at least, maybe 2 billion, for the 50th anniversary, which is next year.
Wonderful. And I know you talk about critical mass movement. Can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, I was born with a little cape on my back, and I'm perennially, maybe pathologically optimistic. But I do feel we've been doing multiple generations since the first Earth Day, and we have not really created a cohesive movement worldwide. Sitting in our audience was a major player in the climate agreement, Nick Nuttall, who's working with Earth Day now.
He'll be joining us later in the panel.
Oh, good. And he and together the countries opened for signature the climate agreement on Earth Day in 2016. But we've all seen people moving away or backwards. And so we have this ebb and flow, one step forward, one step back, and we sort of inch forward. But given what's happening in climate change, species decline, glaciers melting, and all the things we hear about every day, it's really important that we build a cohesive movement, one that isn't separated by continents, but joined together by social movements. So I was really excited to come to Sweden to celebrate for Earth Day, or to begin this process of joining those people together.
So this is sort of a piece of news that you're sharing with us here today?
Yeah, so I've been involved in politics a long time, and we do voter registration and get out the vote, because unlike most countries, you actually have to register to vote, which is a cumbersome, difficult process, and you have to re-register every time you move. So we've done that with groups like the NAACP, Black and Latino groups, because our mission is to diversify the movement. It's a fairly white movement in the United States, and one that's been also not tied to your vote. And so what we found, and we do exit polling around the world, including Sweden, and we have found that in no country, not this one, not the United States, not any country, is environment, climate, energy in the top 5 issues of what you're interested in a political candidate when you vote. I think it's 17% of people make it number 1 in Sweden, and the vast majority of those people are young, and many of those are still not voting. So we've decided to create, along with many other groups, a campaign called Vote Earth, which has just taken off. We're starting it in the EU with parliamentarian elections, but it'll move worldwide. In 2020, Earth Day, the 50th, will come in the middle of our primaries in the United States. And it will also come when 66 other countries, and then hundreds more as we move through, depending on the cycle, state and local elections will happen in 2019, 2020, and 2021. So this campaign will last with all of our partners sort of indefinitely, but the critical point is to connect your vote to the outcomes that you can predict when voting for a candidate around those issues. And to date, it hasn't happened, and we think it'll start today with this campaign and with Vote Earth.
That's amazing news. Thank you for sharing this. And I know you're not just here in Europe to meet us and to launch and to be here, but you're also going to meet the Pope.
Yes, I've met him a couple of times. He's a really nice person, looks you in the eye, totally disarming, is right there with you. And he's been a big supporter of Earth Day. He's always tweeting about it. We've had big events in St. Peter's Square. And I'm hoping that we'll see big commitments from the Vatican and other faith-based organizations. The Sikhs just committed to go plastic-free in honor of the 50th in their temples, and also among the 25, 30 million Sikhs. So many religions are sort of jumping, faith-based groups are jumping into this. We hope the Vatican will as well.
Great, wonderful.